Okay, so I've got this set up. I've put a fairly long piece of thread on here, and I've just started off with a knot at the end of the string here. I put it on a plain background in the hopes that that will come out better on camera, but we shall see. And I've marked off a foot here with a water-soluble marker, so that can come off if it needs to. So, if you've got a complicated pattern with lots of beads of different thicknesses, you might want to do kind of an anchor point here, where you run through a line of that, whatever that mixture is, so you've got something to set the pattern with. Either way, it's not necessary, because it's all the same size, or should be relatively similar. So I'm starting off with a 2 wide strip. Some of these you'll find, if you get the fairly cheap ones, there's a considerable difference in the size. But it should be around about 2 or 3 millimeters, 1 or 2 millimeters wide. This is a more forgiving method than other weaving styles. So this one I've got 2, 2, 2 and a 1, so that's 7. And feed that down the line here. And then space them out on the thread between the rows. Your first one is always going to be slightly difficult because you've got to get the balance perfectly. But you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just moving them along the thread with the needle, just so they're sitting in place. Need to get a macro lens, I think. And then, just to secure it at the other end of this line where my mark is, just go through the cord. With a regular weave you wouldn't have a cord, obviously, but for this one I'm going through the cord, and then gently press down on the beads and run back through them with the needle. This is why we're using the super fine beading needle. Again, I said the first row is going to be difficult because you're positioning everything with the first row, which is why doing one below your start point can be handy. Oh. If I remember, I'll put a little cartoon of this, a little diagram, so you can get a better view. You're not going to get it from there. So once you've gone back and all the way through, pull the thread back. So I'm using a longer than normal thread because I don't want to be continually replacing. Starting again. And here I can see, don't sweat, I've got 2 that haven't actually fallen behind, which again for this isn't a problem necessarily. It just means I've got to be more careful with the next row. But if you're doing a bracelet or something, you do need to make sure you're capturing them all correctly. So I'm just using these now to pull the sides in. So I've got a slightly better, tighter fit here. And just making sure that all the upwards going threads actually sit between the beads. So this first row I'm going to just kind of tack in by coming back through the cord. Okay, so I'm continuing on with the main kind of brim band, and what I've done here is I've just looped around the cord and tied it off, and then spun round with the thread to make the kind of inner lines. I had a couple of pins on for tension and I've had to move them when I moved this round, but the way this is set up, I just pull the pins out and I can just slide it up and down and just bring it round, so I can virtually do a full circuit of the frame, which gives me more than 3 foot of length if I need it. So, and I've changed the patterning, or the way I'm building the pattern. I'm not doing a stripe here. Well, I'm not doing a diagonal stripe, I'm doing a straight blend. So do 3 of a colour, mix in the next colour, and then go back 1, and then carry on. So it goes like that all the way around. So that way I can do the full spectrum. If I go through 3 times and then do a little feature bit, maybe a couple of inches wide, that gets me about 22 inches, which is fine for the brim once I put the rosette on from the other bit. Okay, so I've completed the band tape here, and I left the cord ends long, just so they're not liable to fray. These do go a little bit funny towards the ends. Before I put it on the hat, I'm going to burn them with a lighter just to seal the ends. And I don't know if that's going to come out very well, but I have tied together all the threads, tied to each other, then tied in the middle, and just get tight. I'm going to dab some glue on that to set that knot in, and then that's ready to go. I've got all the kind of the loose ends of thread on the back side, which I'll trim off before I try and put it on. So I'm just going to have a quick measure up to make sure I've actually got the measurement right. There you go. So that fits pretty much perfect. I reckon there's about ½ an inch difference. So here is the other piece I had. The other one I did 2 of these, and the other one, for whatever reason, the threads along the middle here, the warp threads, they all snapped just while sitting in the box. So it virtually fell apart in my hands, which is alarming. So I'm keeping to this one, which seems quite sturdy. And what I've done a bundle of about 30 threads of yarn, and just braided them into a nice fat plait, and then doubled it over so I've got a nice bit of bulky filling here. And I'm going to sew between the ribbon and just put it all round so it's kind of like a cord, so that when I then twist it into a rosette, it will hold itself in shape. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just running a stitch from cord to cord across the ribbon here, whatever you want to call it, just so that this sits flat-ish on here when I'm curling it. It's going to have some buckling, or some kind of wrinkles rather than buckling, because I was doing that and there was a huge gap. So, and I've also pulled together the width of this piece, so it's kind of long and thin rather than being kind of short and fat, which should make it easier to roll. So I'm just going to trim off this edging here, corner. I'm going to leave the thread in so that I can use that to fix the end when I'm done rolling. So I'm going to take this corner and fold it down, and then roll inwards as tight as I possibly can. Like that. Okay, so I've sewn round the ribbon here, and I've just kind of pinned on the bead, but I'm not going to sew around the top. I'm going to leave that loose. It's going to sit better. If I try and bring it over, it's all going to crease up and go all funny. So I'm going to leave that at the top to stay loose, and just sew around the bottom. I may put a couple of little kind of small stitches in just to hold it upright, but it may not need it, depends on how it goes. So I've got to that point, and I've glued a piece of felt to the bottom of the rosette, so that should stabilise the bottom of that. And whilst that's drying, I'm going to cut an outline. So this reel is pretty much the same size as that, so I'm just going to cut a rough outline of that. That gives me an idea of where the final placement will be. not too concerned about it being perfect. It's just kind of a placeholder really. And for the petals, I'm going to just fold it a few times, quarters and probably eighths. That'll give me a rough outline of where the petals need to sit. Like that. And if I just mark each of these spokes, I think if I do one per spoke, one petal per spoke, and then see how the balance goes, I might need to do a couple. Okay, so the bead tape is attached and it's not fixed towards the top, so that if Chantelle wants to tuck anything into it, a bit of mad hattering, the label or the ticket or something, and that's fully available to her. And I've put on some cords for petals. I just use my little circle template to mark out an eighth and then turned it a little bit and marked out another eighth, so I've got a fairly even spread. I could have kept going and done a huge spray, but I don't think that's necessary. So here is my rosette, and to give it a bit more kind of purchase so I can actually get it sewn down securely, I've added a line of braid, I don't know where it's going to come out, using the same cord, and that's just kind of tacked on and then pushed outwards so that I can actually sew around here, rather than trying to dig in and find something in the block here. So that's going to fit down on here, and I'm tucking in this bottom portion because that sits on the brim itself. So it's going to go there, and then it's going to make it easier to sew through the braid rather than trying to find purchase. So I'm just going to pin that in place. It's going to be difficult to hold in because of the shape of the hat as well. So many pins will be useful. And I'm putting back the lining as I work, so I don't sew through the lining because I don't really want the stitches to be that visible. Okay, so rosette is now very firmly fixed. I was going to put some glue on there, but I don't think I need to at this point. I'm going to have to put an iron around it anyway to make sure the fabric pins are set so it doesn't run off when it's being worn. So I've just covered the visible white threads there. So it's not fabulous, but it doesn't show unless you're looking for it really. So when I press it, I'm going to put a bit more of a bend on this side, just so it sits underneath the flower nicely. So last thing to do before I press it is just get rid of the fluff and stuff that it's picked up from being down here really. So I'm going to take a little bit of masking tape and just wrap it around sticky side out, like that, a couple of times. Because this is a felt, I don't want to be lifting too much of the actual felt fibre, so I'm just going to tap that on my trousers just to take off some of the stickiness, and then use it just to lift any of the bits that have gathered on here. And then once I press it, I'm going to just wrap it in paper and then stick it to one side until Chantelle comes. I've actually found this project quite enjoyable. I didn't think I would. Previous history of doing bead weaving has been quite tedious. It's a long thing to do. It takes too much time for what you get out of it really. But this has done quite well, so I'm very tempted to buy a job lot of felt hats and start doing this kind of design. Okay, recording.
Okay, I don't know what this is, but I just got a present, so I'm gonna open it as nicely as I can.
Yeah,
so good at wrapping.
Yeah, I've tied it quite well, sorry.
No, it's brilliant. It's really good.
Bulletproof.
I wish I could wrap like this.
That's a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Ooh, you destructive lady.
I am destructive. Oh my god! Oh my god, this is the best thing ever! Ah! That's amazing.
Oh wow, that looks great.
I'm so happy, I have no words. Oh my gosh. Ah, that's just incredible. I don't think I will ever take this off.
Well, it might be difficult to sleep in.
Yeah, apart from when I'm asleep, I'll be wearing it all the time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm so happy. This is amazing. Oh my god. I can't stop looking at it.